What is estate planning and why should you care? So, in honor of Life Insurance Awareness Month, I've invited a very special guest on this broadcast today to discuss estate planning essentials. So, his name is Steven Scriber, and he is a managing attorney at Scriber Law Group, LLC. His firm specializes in wills, trusts, probate, estate planning, asset protection, guardianship, and conservatorship. So that's quite a handful, and they are definitely experts on the matter. He is based in the Atlanta area and serves the entire state of Georgia. So let's go ahead and connect him in. Hey, Steven, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, hey, it's great to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, I know this is a big topic and so relevant to Life Insurance Awareness Month. People set up their life insurance plans. It's something that often gets set aside. After all the life insurance is enforced, they don't quite look at some other things. And so we're not only going to talk about estate planning in relation to life insurance. We're going to talk about some things that families really need to consider. So if you want to give a little bit of an intro, I kind of did that already. But if you want to tell people a little bit about yourself, feel free.
Oh yeah, so not too much I'd add. Yeah, we've been in this practice for a while. We do like a full sort of estate planning and probate and everything kind of under the umbrella of estates. So
that's great. Yeah, that's usually a very stressful time for a lot of people. I know clients come to me very motivated after they went through the estate planning of a family member. So whether it's immediate family member or extended or a really close friend that they're like, oh my word, I went through this and I need my stuff set up now. So yeah, what you do is very, very important. For those that might not be aware, what's an easy way to kind of summarize what estate planning is?
Oh yeah. I guess kind of in the big picture, estate planning is the act of making sure that if you die I guess we can guarantee everyone will die, but upon your death or a disability, that all your wishes will be protected regarding your property, and if you have kids, making sure your kids and or your spouse are protected. And it's And I kind of break that up into kind of three buckets. Making sure the organization of wealth and assets. Making sure that the second part, kind of making sure is a strategy to protect their assets while they're alive. That involve your minor disability to potential long-term conservatorships or having your assets managed under trust. And then that final bucket, making sure that upon the client's death, hopefully a long time from now, that their family or whoever really they care about or any organizations they care about are taken care of. And also how we can minimize probate disputes, how we can minimize probate really at all, and for clients in states where it matters, or in assets in states where they have an estate tax, to make sure that they don't have to pay it or to minimize that tax bill.
Yeah, so you have a very important job. As losing a family member or somebody that's close to you, you're involved with them, whether it's a business or a charity or something of that nature. It's just really opens up a whole can of worms when somebody passes away and they're not able to be in control anymore. So I'm sure having that disability issue, leaves people very vulnerable. So, you always hear families start, fighting over money when people are sick or they die, that's not in every situation. But it is very wise for people to have this stuff set up beforehand. So that's good. And we appreciate everything that you do for the state of Georgia. So where should people start when they're setting up their estate plan?
So the easiest place to start is kind of where you're at. So figure out, and this is something that for a lot of people is really easy. For other people, it's a little bit complicated. Just figuring out what you own, kind of getting a handle on that, and also thinking about who'd want to be in charge of things and who'd want to take care of people who depend on you.
Yeah,
So
that's huge.
at a minimum, that's kind of a good starting point. And for a lot of types of assets like bank accounts or houses and insurance policies, you
Yeah.
can designate those to go to certain people and stuff like that. So you can kind of have certain things in place before you even sit down and walk into my office or
Right.
whoever your estate planning attorney is.
Yeah. And that's really good. I know like a lot of times it's usually a general process of, you know, you open a bank account, who do you want to be your beneficiary, or, you know, you do this. And I'm sure there's issues though that come up. I guess, you know, depends on what state you're in. And then, you know, God forbid that person dies and you just don't get to update everything.
Yes, that happens a lot. People don't update documents. They might get divorced or their kid's age and they didn't update it, and 20, 30 years goes by. And so at a very minimum, just kind of make sure you understand what you currently have.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen, you know? Especially when your life changes. So keep that in mind, people. You know, your life changes in any capacity with you know, important people in the mixture. It's really, you know, I mean, I said this already a couple of times. My husband was he was training somewhere when our Coast Guard legal came by to do our estates, and so or like estate planning at the will or whatever. So I did mine, and he didn't get to update his. You know what I mean? And it's still not done yet, and it's not like a huge deal right now, but it can be. You know, I mean, like don't make me deal with that.
Yes, like one of those things where you don't. Yeah, not to be like a fatalist or a dark person, but like
you have to.
We know death and taxes are happening. We just don't know when for a lot of that. So our goal is just to get everything squared away as early as possible, just so you don't have to think about it. You can then go on living your life and
and have a good smooth process. You know, feel at peace. You know, God forbid you have something happen, and I mean, you're not going to know if you're dead. You know, but you don't want your family or your survivors really looking back and going, you know, like that's more of the grief process they're going to have to go through if they're like angry at you.
Yes, you want them to be. Yeah, you want your last memories to be good ones. Like it seems like some of you are like, we've had disputes last years over estates, and you can't help but think that that person who died would not have wanted that. Yeah. And they have their memory kind of tied up in that.
Yeah, that's a really hard process, you know, for families and everything. So this is not the life insurance again is part of it. It's not one of those fun things you put on your to-do list, and estate planning and all that goes into it, but it's so important. Do you have any special tips for parents who, you know, might need to set up an estate plan?
Yes,
sure, you got a lot of thoughts on this one.
I'll kind of separate those buckets out. So once again, so if you have young kids, there's a very, very particular set of advice I would give you. Or is to one, consider, I guess more than anything, really consider the care of your kid. So in Georgia, and I'm sure most other states, there are certain documents you would do, like a will, and many times in Georgia where you nominate a guardian for your kids if both parents were to die before the kid turned 18. Think about how you want the kids to receive your estate. If something were to happen, who'd really trust to take care of them, to make sure that the things you would have done are approximated by someone else. And that includes paying for things, making sure that they're taken care of from till they presumably till they go to college, or till they would have left your nest. And also values wise, who shares your values and who is a good person that you think for that role. And a lot of times people, I like you to struggle with that now instead of waiting too long on that.
Especially if you get sick.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Get sick, they really start thinking about these things. But you know that might be the worst time to think about it.
Yeah, and the scariest thing for people with younger kids is that statistically they're less likely to die of disease than from an accident or from some unplanned occurrence. So like most people under 40, I mean, medical care has improved that statistically you're not gonna you'll
Yeah,
probably
right.
survive to your kids turn 18
Exactly. Sure.
from medically, but
Sure.
in Atlanta, there's so many car accidents and things
Yeah.
like that you just you can't predict stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
you
a
don't
lot of
get
times it's a
chance.
common disaster where both
Mhm.
parents might be in the car at the same time. Like it's rare, but it's not rare enough.
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah, it's like it's not, you don't want to have that, it's not going to happen to me, because in the event that it does, how bad is that going to be for your family? And I mean, that's like something you don't get time, like being sick, to sit there and ponder, what's going to happen. Whoops, I didn't set up my estate plan. Oh my gosh, my life insurance or whatever, all these documents are a mess. It's bam.
Exactly.
Your family is now immediately in a different situation, which can be really terrible. And you brought up a great point about dual parents or dual family members passing away. Car accidents are a really great example. Could be other situations, if a car accident is like the main source of that. And I know I have, we might be jumping ahead a little bit, and that's actually, let's just go on to that. Leads me to the question of, should parents add their minor children as their life insurance beneficiaries? Because many times parents, when they buy policies for me, they'll put their spouse on, as the initial beneficiary, and they'll immediately go start listing their children as the contingent, which is known as your backup beneficiaries. And so I can't tell them that they should. I can't really guide them in any way. I just have to tell them what their options are. I mean, I make strong suggestions, but I can't lead people to, can't force them to do anything. So I'm always saying you need to really rethink that, because your children aren't going to get the money from the life insurance company for a long time. So that's a big deal.
So because I would agree. In Georgia, I almost uniformly recommend not leaving insurance money to kids under 18. And even for kids a little over 18, I don't recommend leaving it directly to them either. If I was an 18-year-old, I don't think I would be trusted with a large sum of money.
Yeah, especially after going through a tragedy.
Oh yeah. And so what happens, and Georgia is not atypical, is that for kids under 18, if you leave something to them, the court, before the kids can benefit from that money, a conservator would have to be appointed by a court to manage it for them if there's no other plan in place. So you're essentially going to someone, hoping that they manage the money well, and then hoping that they invest it or they share the same values as far as how to use that fund.
Okay, so let me pause you.
I see secondarily.
What's a conservator? So is that something that is tell us about that.
A conservator is essentially like a court-appointed person that manages someone else's money.
Okay.
Other states have different terms for it. It might be a guardian, different types of guardianships. In Georgia, particularly for money, we have a conservatorship over money and then a guardian over the person.
And is that like something that they pre-choose it, or like you can choose it? Or it's like
not really. It's something the court would appoint. The surviving parent or relative may ask the court to be named it. But it's not really giving the parent who created the policy is not really they aren't empowered to do that in advance. Unless they do some other things. They would I would recommend, and also I think a second thing I see somewhat commonly is people leaving the insurance money to an adult for the kid. So it might be like your spouse, and then I'll leave it to my sister so that she can take
Sisters
care of my
kid. Siblings are something that they're really common.
Yeah. I don't recommend that for a different reason, and that is because no matter how much you trust your sister, and she probably does have her kid's best interests at heart, I'm going to be the most charitable to them I can possibly be. Even then, you're at the risk of that sister, in this example, getting divorced, and her husband trying to get half that money, or her sister declaring bankruptcy, or having debts, or having some other issue. Insurance money for the kids is now up for grabs.
Yeah, that's true.
No matter what you would do, you can't ensure that adult is going to be immune from any things that happen to people.
Exactly. Right. That happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and for a larger policy, like you're really leaving a kid $1 million or something like that, then you really want to have someone. If it's not the surviving parent, then you really want to have a professional person in there who can take care of that funds for them. So a professional trustee, a financial person in place. So almost it gets you like halfway there to get the kids' insurance to support them. It's obviously really it'll help your kids get through college. If you have a 5-year-old and something happens, it'll get them through college. But you want to make sure that you have the right structure in place to receive it.
Yeah, and that's a really good point because $1 million worth of life insurance, if we're talking about that, and then or anywhere near that number, usually that comes up because people are doing their calculations or their needs assessments, and that it's considering inflation and it's considering that rising cost of all of these things like housing and college. But if you have, say, a family member who happens to be the adult that steps in to manage it, and they're not wise with the money, they think, oh, well, I'll need a bigger house right now, ASAP, or if they're not thinking inflation wise, that college money may not be there, depending on how it's used. So, it's really, you don't know what you can't dictate what they're going to do with it. And that's the benefit of doing
a good trust you can dictate. Yeah. If you have very specific wishes in your trust, like I want it to be used for A, B, and C, it at when they turn 18, it can only be used for an accredited college and blah, blah, blah. And then at age 25, 30, distribute the balance. You got very specific wishes with a well-constructed trust that you can't really do anywhere else.
That is so great. And I can see how it can be great and then also limiting in a way. But I feel like the limits, the cons of having those limitations are not as large as the pros.
Yes, I definitely want to talk with your attorney about how limiting you want it to be. Okay. I mean, I definitely want to encourage people to have a balance, to take your kids, hopefully if your kids are old, take their behavior into account, how responsible they are, who's going to be in charge of the fund, whether a professional trustee perhaps in place to do that, or if you're asking the surviving parent or someone else to do it, just kind of get a handle on what reasonable limits are and what not reasonable limits are. That's really limits are definitely reasonable. Don't give 18-year-olds large sums of money usually. Right. But you don't want to be I want them to do, you don't want to micromanage their lives. Right.
And if you're that parent, I'm sure you kind of know you are. So
I will try to talk you off the cliff, and because you want your memory at the same time also to be very good. You don't want every time they need pay their rent when they're college, so they have to go through a ton of hoops and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. So, that's very important. You really got to think about, the future, and it's hard. You thinking about dying it's difficult. Leaving your children behind is so hard, but really being emotionally aware of the situation and just prudent and taking those practical steps financially is huge. So it sounds like, would you say then a trust is usually a better option? I mean,
I would almost uniformly say for people with kids under 18, I want to talk with all of them about trust. I mean, it's such an important tool. It can vary from being a simple trust in your will for where situations where it's not a lot of assets or lower. Well, I guess it's all relative on a scale to higher asset situations or insurance situations where you want to have a standalone trust with a lot more specific provisions. And it even extends if you have kids with special needs or if you have very particular situations where you almost always will want to have a trust.
Yeah, special needs, parents with special needs, that is almost a guarantee, just making sure that somebody is going to be able to take care of them properly, that's a big deal on there. And I don't know, did you have any other comments on tips for parents or trusts or anything like that?
I would add one other thing. So I talk about young kids all the time. I'll add a little bit of caveat for people with older kids. Even while your kids are over 18, they could be 70 for all I know. You want to think seriously about how you want to leave the estate. where kids don't like each other for various reasons, or there's blended families, right? Step kids and stuff like that. You want to definitely a plan for that. You want to, if it's a high probability of a dispute, you want to get the documents in place. Then a trust also becomes really important for that part. And make sure that everything goes fairly smoothly. And there's some strategies we can use ahead of time to cut off disputes before they become a legal one. So you'd be surprised. We've seen 70-year-old people fight like they were 12. Like,
oh my God,
same kind of grudges. Like, you got the bigger room when you was a kid. It's like, so if you sense that in your own family, then you want to plan that out ahead of time.
Yeah, and you may not sense it. It may not, you might just be something you do, and just in case, just in case people start changing their minds when you die.
And most common trusts are revocable and stuff. So there's a lot of times, so even if you set things up, we can still change this every few years as situation goes on. But it's good to have that foundation in place. You won't ever regret, and your family won't regret you having done the trust over just a simple will. So
definitely. And so, is it usually recommended that people do kind of like check in on their estate plan every couple of years, and maybe not like every 2, but usually life events are huge,
So I definitely recommend every year. I like to personally check in at least every year to see how estates are going. Most people will know if there's a big change. If there's a change that's big enough to get like a congratulations or anything like that, you'll probably want to touch base with me to see if it involves change or not. It might not. Like, if you have a new kid, or you have a new kid, that's great. You might want to. We want to tweak it to put them in there. Or if you get married, get remarried, get divorced, things that are big news, you'll want to talk with your lawyer just to kind of make sure that's all taken care of and reflects in your documents. So I think annuals and for a lot of people, annuals too aggressive, but at least every few years, just to kind of, you'll probably make changes, but definitely every year you'll want to touch base with your lawyer just to kind of see where it's going.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like, it looks good.
Relationship, it's not that hard. If you've got the legwork done and set up, and you maintain that relationship with your attorney, if you're in the same area, you can do that or whatever. Then that's helpful. I know for our military families, it's not that easy to do.
That's harder. Yeah, I grew in a military family, so I understand. You're just a lot of moving around. So
but to that, I have heard in general that just what we get as the military is not always as in depth as some estate planning attorneys. So, there are estate planning, specialties that you can go for that would serve you well. So,
in the military has some advantages. I mean, there's some things you'll want to look at, like your retirement benefits and stuff like that, making sure they flow correctly and stuff. But there's a lot of different military things. You're talking to your state lawyer. If after retirement, then you'll definitely want to make sure they understand what's going on with it. So
that's great. Yeah, after retirement, of course, that's the checklist. Life insurance is definitely on that checklist, and transferring in the civilian world, even if you're just a veteran and you're getting out, and you no longer have that free legal in the military, and maybe you had that before set up, and so that's just the time to look at everything. So that would be one of those major new news kind of situations. So I want to ask you, I think it's a common question that people usually get confused about. Are estate plans just for people who are older or wealthy?
No. Sometimes it's like we wish it were. I'll say that everybody has an estate plan. They just don't know it yet.
Right.
So just state laws of all 50 states and DC all have rules on what happens upon someone's death.
And they call that probate, right?
Yeah, it's all probate. You probably won't like what it does. It fits very few families. And if for families that are, I'll call it families of choice, like long-term relationships or situations where you have people that are not related to you by blood, or you want to leave it to a sibling instead of your kids, the state law does not really accommodate that very well. So you have a plan, you probably won't like it. So you will want to, if you want to do anything other than what the state of Georgia or state of fill in the blank says, you will want to address that with an attorney. And is one of those things that's so important. Don't wing it yourself. Just kind of sit down.
Or rocketlawyer.com or whatever.
Yes. The information on those websites, I think, most of it's true. So, but gather up your information, go do your homework, but then sit down with someone when it's time to get the work done, and put something together that's for your family and executed correctly.
Yeah,
I don't oppose online products inherently, but I have done more litigation on those than any other type of will. People don't execute them correctly.
Wow.
People didn't put the language they thought they were putting in.
Right. Yeah, you're not a lawyer, so.
Yes. I don't fix
that's why lawyers go to school.
Anything like that. So hire experts, and you'll rest a lot easier knowing that it was done in a way that for your particular family. So we can leave things for the benefit of your pets, charities, kids,
whatever you want, really.
Just do it correctly, and
That's
you'll
great.
won't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and the pets are big nowadays,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I have 4 pets now. I have 2 dogs, 2 cats. They're taking care of.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but
okay.
things like that. So I definitely.
They're in your will. So
for a lot of families, depending on how they feel about their kids or how Thanksgiving dinner went, their pet might be higher up on the totem pole. So.
I think ours isn't a lot of times. So it's it's like, what would happen to my precious dog? You really gotta think about that kind of stuff.
Definitely.
So I like to ask a little fun question as we wrap up a little bit here to my guests, and that would be, who is your hero and why?
Oh yeah, I'll say my parents. I'm pretty I'll say my parents are both first college. My dad went to West Point and he did his military. He did 18 years.
That's great.
Yeah. So
thank you.
He's still. Oh yeah. So we did a lot of military moves, but he retired when I was in middle school, I guess. But,
great. Okay.
But yeah, I really support the military. And also family, so I'll include my mom. She did probably a lot of the grunt work on the ground that when my dad was
absolutely
like Kuwait, he did Panama, and then he had Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the first Gulf War, and then a few overseas things, and then he was able to retire. So
yeah, that is so cool.
So he spent a lot of time. We didn't go on these international trips. Like my friends with Italy and Germany. I was like, we did not do that.
Yeah, I know. We're Coast Guard family, so we don't get to do that part. It's like, but you benefit a lot. But I know what you mean. It's like, I want to go over there. So that's good.
I'll go there as an adult. They definitely do great stuff. So the military, there's a lot of your retirement planning. They have a lot of things as they get older and need assisted stuff. Fortunately, government does. It's not perfect, but there's some good things in place that they want to make sure that they take advantage of. Yeah,
definitely. And I know, your dad probably taught you a lot of this, or you saw it kind of firsthand, that it is imperfect, and I think all of us military families know that. And it's just it's important to always do your homework and double check. One of my supervisors always said,
bureaucracy
verify. So
yes, bureaucracies don't inherently take care of people. They're just trying to get through the day. So when you double check, they've done their job.
Definitely. So I'm glad that your dad did that and is your hero. I'm sure that he taught you a lot of valuable things, because the military usually doesn't end in people who retire. Carries forward.
More top of my desk, the other papers behind me, but I'll hopefully that part. But yeah,
that's great. So where can people connect with you? So you're definitely rocking it on LinkedIn, number one. So you guys should definitely head on over to LinkedIn and find Steven on there, because he's got some really awesome videos that are short and informative, and definitely something you can take away some estate planning tips from. So.
So we're on LinkedIn. We're scriberlaw.com is our website. You can contact me anywhere there. So we have our phone number. You can send me a message. We're also on Facebook, LinkedIn. So we have some videos on Instagram. We're kind of putting some stuff up there now. We're at Scriber Law Group on Instagram.
Oh, great.
And we're pretty much everywhere. If you Google us, you'll find us. So
it's awesome. You guys are just doing a really good job. So Okay, you can tell
So
your
we're planning to be.
professionals. Yeah, you know what you're talking about, and so we really appreciate you coming on today to go through this interview. It's not the most fun thing to talk about, but you talk about it every day. So
Oh, yeah. We try to make it as fun as we can. So
yeah, exactly.
Planning isn't fun, but your lawyer can be. So hopefully
Yeah, there you go.
time
Oh
doing
man. Yeah.
it.
So if you're going to go through the estate planning process, you might as well find somebody who is approachable, you know, like Stephen, and is fun to work with in that regard, because it is a very important topic, you guys. You don't want to leave your family hanging. God forbid you die or you get really sick. This is not only if you die. So yeah, we're talking about this in
Yes.
relation to Life Insurance Awareness Month. But this is also if you've got a life-changing short-term or long-term disability, you know your life's going to change. So having these in order is really important. So we thank you so much. Maybe we'll brainstorm some other stuff to talk about later down the road. I'm sure we can come up with a list. But I think today was really good, especially for parents, to be able to take away, you know, some valuable estate planning tips. So thank you, Stephen. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Good.
All right. Thanks, everyone, so much for tuning in. So we appreciate you joining for Life Insurance Awareness Month. And if you are looking for more life insurance tips that are short and informative, you can visit me over at insuretheheroes.com/video-series. Thank you for tuning in today.